everyone. Today I'm joined by Kate again, and we are going to be talking about Spanish. Kate, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Can you tell us a little bit of your personal journey with Spanish?
Hola. Buenos días, buenas tardes. Yes, of course. I am British, as you probably hear, and I learned Spanish at school uh, and really enjoyed it. Had a very enthusiastic teacher, and for French as well, actually. And visited Spain when I was about 16 to do an exchange and loved it. And before then, I'd only ever kind of been on family holidays, but I guess even then, kind of seeing that, you can communicate if you learn phrases and that people actually love it when you talk to them in their own language. Um, yeah, so and then I decided to do Spanish and French at university and spent 4 years, three years at university, and then a year abroad in Madrid, uh, which was very exciting. Spent some time in French-speaking Switzerland as well, and then I didn't. I mean, I kind of kept up with the French and Spanish, but I went to work in London after that. And it wasn't until I decided to do a PGCE teaching qualification that sort of the languages thing came back, and that was great. Um, and then I taught for 5 years in a boarding school, both Spanish and French. So that was sort of key stage three, kind of beginners and GCSE, IGCSE, and AS level, A level as well, university entrance. So the whole lot. And yeah, and that was great as well. Very, very different. But it kind of also meant that I had to brush up on even though I hadn't been out that long, I had to brush up on my French and Spanish. And just and think yeah, and obviously think about teaching them much more to others.
Oh, well, my son went to Spain on it was a Bible camp a couple of years ago, and he found the Spanish culture wonderful. He loved it. He loved he was so blown away by the just how friendly everybody was, and he came back wanting to learn Spanish. Um, I thought this would be excellent. So yeah, it'd be lovely. And he said that that's one thing he wants to do is once he's finished and he's kind of got himself kind of settled down, he'd love to spend a year in a Spanish speaking country, and live for a year because
And
he
will he go to Spain? Will it be Spain or will it be Central America, South America?
I don't know. It might never happen, but that I think he wanted to go to Spain, but maybe South America. Our pastor's wife is actually from Mexico, and she would love to take groups over to
Yeah,
Mexico on mission trips because she's from right down the south, and there's quite a lot of poverty from the town that she lives in, and she said that she'd love to take families people from the church on trips over
that would
to
be amazing.
Mexico. Yeah.
Really
So it's a
good.
really it's just yeah, it just opens up so much opportunity,
Yeah.
especially
It's such
for being
such a
young and in a
global
different country.
language. Yeah. It's such a global language. So after Chinese, it's the second most spoken language
Yeah,
in 20, I can't remember how many countries, a lot of countries.
it is a lot of
Um,
countries.
yeah.
So most of South America speaks
Yeah.
Spanish, apart from Brazil's Portuguese, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Yes.
And
And
then the
it's
Caribbean. Yeah.
a lot of, I remember speaking to somebody years ago, they said as learning for the idea of learning a foreign language, that Spanish is such a good one to learn for the mission field. If you
Yeah.
were looking to, because there's so many opportunities for Spanish. Yeah, that sounds really rich and lots of experience with the language through both your travel and also in your professional life.
Yeah.
And you've now got daughters who are,
Yes, yeah, so that's right. The younger one is she's doing Spanish and French. at A level, and she's not quite sure what she wants to do. So she sometimes thinks she might do it, and then sometimes, it changes. But yeah, so she's been enjoying it. We we did Spanish IGCSE just kind of in 4 months, which I've got more white hairs now because of that. She'd already done French. I wouldn't recommend that one, but yeah, she suddenly decided she wanted to do it. So we kind of we had daily lessons, just did it. And she did something similar with the French the year before, but she's doing the A level now. She loves it. And then the older one is she's doing French actually, not Spanish, at university. Um, yeah, she didn't do Spanish for A level. She didn't actually do it for GCSE either, which but she was doing maths. Um, and yeah, so she's enjoying French. She's studying at Oxford, and she's yeah, she's planning to just get out to France, French speaking countries more. And she's learning, and this is something obviously you do more with all languages, with Spanish as well. She is looking at the literature of the country and music,
Yeah.
film, um, just issues affecting people
Oh,
out there, which she's finding really interesting. Um, yeah.
yeah. My daughter did a similar thing, but not with a language, with physics. She was doing A-level maths, and she was loving it so much. Part of it was mechanics, which is just basic physics. She started thinking,
Mm.
"Oh, I want to do physics." So we white knuckled IGCSE physics in 4 months for the
Yeah.
exam, and then she did. She went on and did the higher physics. It was like, okay, that was a 180. Because before that it was like literature she wanted to do, and music and all these other things. But yes, it's interesting when your teenager suddenly decides course change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you can, but it's so important, isn't it, to try new things when you're younger? Because I think I don't know, I think we can get less keen on doing that when we get older. And I quite like the fact that young people are willing to say, right, I would like to, I'd like to have a go
yeah.
at this. And I think good for you.
And yeah, just the possibility, the time, and just that belief. I think yeah, you're absolutely right. As we get older, we just kind of lose that
Yeah.
almost adventurousness.
Yeah.
Um, you've got an unusual surname. I never heard your surname before. How do you pronounce it?
Andreev. Andreev.
Andreev.
So that's the kind of English alphabet. Yeah, right, well, not English alphabet,
Yeah,
but
the
remember
anglicized version.
the anglicized version of the name, yeah. But Andrea.
What is the
So,
story behind it?
oh, right. So, I am. So it's a Russian surname. I'm not Russian. My husband, is his name. His father was Russian, and he came over here after the Second World War, and started teaching at Cambridge. And he grew up near St. Petersburg in Russia. He was born in 1908, so lived through um, the Russian Revolution, First World War and Russian Revolution, and the family had to flee. So they had just such terrible times for so many people. Then they had their family, his father being a headmaster of a sort of experimental school, really, and they had white Russian army billeted on them, and when they drew back because the Red Army were coming, they were told, look, you don't want to stay around. It'll be shooting first, questions later. You need to come with us. So they did. They fled, the whole family, and they ended up in Estonia. And there were lots of Russian emigres who ended up there as well. Quite a lot of academics who probably would have been in a lot of trouble had they not fled. Um, so my husband's father grew up there. Very difficult times. He remembers they lost their papers somehow, which was devastating then for managing
Yeah.
to get everything. He remembered. his siblings dying, and they're just not, they're just not being enough to eat, and just forget what awful times they
Yeah.
were for people. And then but actually, as it happened, he was educated by university professors in Estonia because there were lots of people around who couldn't get jobs. And then he eventually did a PhD and he ended up actually running a private library in Prague, of all places. So, and then the Second World War came along, and he was because he was a foreigner there himself, he was arrested, and he should have been, there was some sort of oversight. He should have been returned, really, because they found it wasn't a problem, but he wasn't. And so he ended up in a camp, not, sort of in prison, really, I guess. It would have been called a concentration camp, but not like the awful
Yeah.
extermination camps, but yeah, so not exactly a prisoner of war camp. And he survived. He thinks probably bringing along his heavier overcoat made helped him to survive the cold winters.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of chaos, and eventually someone he knew after the war was in touch with, they wanted an academic in Cambridge, and somebody said, do you know of Nikolai Andreev? And yeah, he ended up over here, but very much as an emigre. So I think he always felt like he couldn't speak any English when he arrived. But he met my husband Michael's mother over here, and she was one of his first students. He was teaching. He only spoke Russian, and she was British, and she lived abroad as well. So she understood a little bit about the whole thing of having to travel to a different country, even if it's your own country, and be reconciled to it. And of course, my father-in-law Nikolai learned English, and they got married, and they had a family. But when they were engaged, her family had him followed around by a private detective. So they thought they were from quite different backgrounds, and they thought, this sort of penniless Russian immigrant, was after her money or something. And so they didn't have the easiest of starts. And you end up thinking, but actually, he was a really courageous, intelligent, hardworking guy. And and I think they realized actually that it was genuine. And they got married and they had three children. One of them's my husband. So it all ended well.
Uh-huh.
And they spoke Russian at home, but then
Yeah.
but one of his things actually was he always felt like an immigrant, sort of second class citizen almost, and he didn't want that for his children. So he really wanted them um to know and understand their heritage, and to speak Russian, and to for that to be part of them, but also for them to be British, and to be able to integrate. And yeah, apart from the foreign name. So yeah.
That is just such. It sounds like a plot from a movie or a book. It's to be caught up in the big geopolitical movements of the 20th century, not just
Yeah,
once, but
yeah,
twice,
yeah,
is
yeah. And
fascinating.
dangerous times as
Yeah.
well. To be, yeah, and you just think there were so many people who were caught up in this, and then perhaps ended up in a different country than the one they'd been born in, and had to change and adapt to a new culture, new language.
You see as well just the hand of God's providence over your family. This bringing things together that for your family to be here today and for your
Yes,
daughters and just in the midst of all the chaos that was 20th century Europe,
yes,
this man's life has been brought.
yes,
The
yeah.
fruit of that is
And
just
I'm
amazing.
very grateful for it
Yeah.
because it's how I met my husband, and obviously my children. And they were my husband's parents were married twice. This is a story because they had the Church of England wedding, which was what everyone did then,
Yeah.
and so that was also the legal part then. And then they thought, oh, we want to go to the Russian Orthodox priest for a blessing because that's how his father had been brought up, and so
Uh-huh.
they did that. And the Russian Orthodox priest said, I'm not giving you a blessing. I'm going to marry you. And so they didn't, so they had two weddings really.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. And it's the fascinating thing as well is that fact the how much language and
Yeah.
multilingual households are in your family's heritage. You've brought your Spanish and French and that, but your husband's also coming with this really rich heritage from a
linguistic
Russian.
linguistic background, and
Yeah,
we have so many languages in the UK. I think sometimes we don't realize it or appreciate it because you can go anywhere and speak English,
yeah,
right? And so that's our perception, but actually, yeah, we do. We have so many world languages here, and it's great when we can learn languages as well. And I think actually one of the things in Spain is people really appreciate it.
yeah,
So I think they are very used to uh, us as British people going over there and loving the culture and the people um, yeah, and enjoying the sunshine and the food and everything. But I think people really appreciate it when you can speak the language.
yeah. And also the whole I think we may have said this. I may have said this in the last podcast we did. This idea of the humility of speaking somebody else's language that we can. I'd heard somebody talking about, I can't remember where it was or when it was, but somebody had said this idea where you hear, so you might go to the local shop and there is somebody with maybe an Asian background and they're speaking English and they're speaking it with a thick accent and we can look at and there's just what your what your father-in-law experienced, being treated like a second class citizen. And yet that person has learned a language that is actually very different from their mother tongue and is
Yes,
speaking with it fluently, and you're understanding them and they're understanding you. And that is incredibly difficult. And
yes,
so
yeah,
when we learn a foreign language or when our children learn a foreign language, they can appreciate this is hard work.
yes.
And
Yeah.
you might not be pronouncing it properly. You might be struggling with your vocabulary and it might be quite stunted. And that's the reality of learning a foreign language. It's something that takes a lot of hard work and a lot of patience and practice and gives us that
And just being
appreciation for.
willing to try it out and to get
Yeah.
it wrong and not to mind that. That's just
Oh,
that's part of learning. And I think I've so often been humbled by Spanish people. Just overjoyed that you're trying to
yes.
speak and they don't laugh at you at all or very patient as well. So it's worth doing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's well worth doing.
Yeah. My son found out when even a little bit he was in Spain. He was only there for 2 weeks and he loved it. And he would try and do a wee bit of Spanish and the Spanish boys were like, "Yay, you're doing it."
Yeah. No, they would. And I think actually once you get away from the holiday resorts in most countries, you find actually not everyone speaks English. So it's well worth speaking. It's well worth speaking some of the language.
Yeah. We've kind of been talking about this, but what makes Spanish such a good choice of language for teens?
Oh, yeah, okay. I think it is for an English speaker. I don't think it's not too difficult to learn. So, um, you have the same alphabet, the one or two letters, and there are some different sounds, but it's pronounced quite phonetically, which means
Hmm.
you don't sort of have 17 letters for one sound or something crazy. It's you can usually have a go, and there are a few rules, but it's not difficult to start speaking if you're an English speaker or spelling really. And we have quite a lot of words that are similar as well.
Uh-huh.
The emphasis might be slightly different, but lots of cognates and yeah, because we're just far more global now. You obviously have that, much more back and forth with words and so on and so forth. So I think it's not too difficult as one
Yeah.
to, as one to try. That makes it good. Um, I think because of I think because of the opportunities, and it's kind of what we've been talking about. So travel, yeah, holidays, working abroad, studying. Um, I think so there are lots of opportunities with that because it is so widely spoken. Um, and yeah, it's not, it can be very useful. I mean, people don't necessarily have to become fluent in it. It could be conversational,
Hmm.
but actually, if you've tried to learn another language, that is actually a very good thing on your,
Yeah.
on your CV as well. Just the fact that, you're willing to try new things, um, is fun.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I can for the future it can be really helpful. And as you said, there's a lot of for Christians, there's a lot of mission work out there. There are a lot of possibilities with organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you share a little bit about the Spanish class that you'll be tutoring with our eyes?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to be doing beginning Spanish, and it's sort of exactly what it says on the tin. So we're going to start from scratch and think about greetings. So, hola, buenos días, buenas tardes. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? Kind of all the basics.
Yeah.
¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? Me llamo. My name is Sue. We're going to start, with all the basics. How are you? Um, and then things you would need to learn in any language. So numbers, and from that, dates, times, money. Lots of use for numbers, aren't there? When you start thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Um, I think, and as well, describing people, saying who's in your family, just being able to kind of talk about your life a bit, what you're interested in, what you like doing, what you study, um, and things as well like food and drink, very important. Um, Shopping as well. And then looking at so all along, kind of looking at this in the context of, Spanish culture. So it's not just a bit of Spanish
Hmm.
in Britain or
Yeah.
whatever, but actually um, trying to put it into Hispanic culture a little
Hmm.
bit. Um,
Kate, can you tell us a little bit about the format of the class?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to have two 40-minute sessions twice a week. So two kind of bites of the apple, as it were. And the reason for this is to it really helps retaining language and learning language, just doing it a little bit more often. And we'll focus on speaking and listening, and obviously a bit of reading during the lesson. And then the homework will be more, writing up new expressions, more focusing on the writing and probably a bit of reading as well. And I tend to prepare a PowerPoint for each lesson. And we use that for, I mean, that isn't the lesson, as it were. It's more like the blackboard for the lesson. But I send that afterwards so that students have all the new language written out. And if we've covered a grammar point, that they've got it there explained, and they can, so they can revise over it in
Yeah.
their own time. And we do, I do like to encourage interaction as much as possible. So I'm not going to force anyone to do anything, but the lessons are really a chance for everybody to try out their Spanish, and in a safe environment where their teacher will be thrilled if they speak Spanish. So
Yeah.
so yeah,
And the
that's
beauty
the plan.
the beauty with having live online language lessons is you can practice the vocabulary. You can speak the words. You can get the feedback. If have you pronounced it right? Where do you need to work on that? You're getting a safe place to practice
That's right.
reading.
And to ask questions as well, really. So if someone wants to say, hang on, I don't I don't understand that.
Uh-huh.
It's a new word, what does that mean? Or whatever. It's yeah, probably someone else will be thinking it too. And so absolutely it's a safe place to ask and to get immediate help, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't understand a word or how to pronounce it, it's there.
Help is
Um,
there.
so yeah, thank you, Kate, so much for coming on and tell us all about Spanish. And if anyone wants any information, please email us at arise@arisehomeeducation.com. Thank you so much.
Adios.